Everybody can see me? Right. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see me. I can't see myself at the moment. So let's just see if I can get that sorted. Okay. So my name is Professor Gatrad. Antara, can you hear me okay and see me okay? Yeah.
Perfectly fine. I can hear
Okay,
you.
thanks.
I can see you.
So my name is Professor Gatrad. I founded WASUP, World Against Single-Use Plastic, and we have lots and lots of ambassadors around the world. The people call me Prof G, and Prof G has got a special sign, which is that sign called the WASUP sign. So that WASUP sign is all around the world. Now, Prof G, that's me, looks after sick children around the world. And every time I look after children and talk to children, I have Mickey with me. So say hello to Mickey. Wave to Mickey. Great. Okay, so Mickey is going to talk to you with me about WASUP, which is World Against Single-Use Plastic. Okay, so a lot of schools in Warsaw cut up a lot of plastic that was thrown away, and they made beautiful murals. And this is a school in Blackwood that did this mural from broken up plastic. Now, plastic is everywhere. Plastic is choking our world. Plastic is bad for us. Plastic is bad for the environment. Plastic is bad for the animals. So here, it is just showing that this is the wave of plastic that is eating up our world. Now, a lot of you are not very old like me. When you're born, you're connected to plastic already. Can you see? You've got a plastic nappy, you've got plastic thing around your arm, you've got plastic tubes up your nostrils, etc., etc. So plastic is everywhere. Not all plastic is bad, but the plastic that I'm talking about is all the single-use plastic, like the bottles and the things that your chocolates are wrapped in, and the plastic bags that your mums and dads bring stuff home from supermarket. So WASUP is World Against Single-Use Plastic. And of all the plastic that's produced, 50% of it is what we call single-use plastic, like the cups, the bottles, the bags that people throw away. So what we do at WASUP, which is World Against Single-Use Plastic, is to raise awareness of the dangers of plastic. We talk to children like I'm doing today, and we also go down litter picking around the streets. So I join a lot of schools, so does Balbir, who is with us today. So we all go around with children, litter picking around the schools, okay? Now, you may have seen this song called the WASUP song. It is on the internet, so if you actually Google WASUP song, you'll get a beautiful song for 3 or 4 minutes, sung by 3 schools in the West Midlands. I've also written a book called The Story of 3 Plastic Bottles. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And some of your schools will get these books from Let's Localize. So where does plastic come from? Well, it's really a horrible story about plastic, where it comes from. Because plastic actually comes from oil and gas. Oil and gas is inside the earth. We've got to drill it, we've got to pull it up, we've got to refine it, and then it is made into plastic, as you can see. So this is how it's made slowly. It goes into the burners, then it's molded, and then you get something like a bottle, okay? So these gases are created by plastic. A lot of other things cause gases as well, like motor cars, a lot of factories, and all these horrible gases have got carbon dioxide in them. Now, as you know, and you're all very clever children, carbon dioxide is something we breathe out. But nature is so clever that it has got trees and plants around us. So these trees and plants take away the carbon dioxide, which is bad for the atmosphere, because it is what we call a greenhouse gas. That greenhouse gas is bad for the world because it makes it warmer and warmer, and all this ice in the Greenland and Antarctica and Arctic Ocean and all these places have got ice in them, and that melts if we got a lot of global warming, which means the world is warming. So greenhouse gases are bad. They're produced by plastic. So what we should be doing is refusing to use plastic, writing to our governments to say, please do not produce plastic, tax the companies that are making plastic, because we do not like plastic, okay? Because plastic is thrown away like this little boy here called Sam, he's thrown this plastic away. So let us see what happens to that plastic bottle. I'll give you a story of 3 plastic bottles now as to what happens to them, okay? First one is a red bottle, second is a purple one, and the third one is a green one. So somebody's thrown this bottle around the streets or whatever, it's been picked up, and then it is taken to a landfill. Landfill is a horrible, horrible big hole in the earth where this bottle hangs around for many, 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 many years. And that bottle of plastic, with all the other rubbish, produces poison. And that poison is called a leachate. So that poison, can you see that yellow stuff here? It's going into the earth, it's going into the water, and these animals were happy, but can you see the animals are dead now because they have been eating plants and drinking water that has got plastic. So not a happy story for the red bottle. So let's look at this purple bottle. The purple bottle has not got a happy story either, because somebody threw the purple bottle in the water. So it started floating, went into the river, and then eventually got into the oceans. So everything we throw gets into the oceans eventually. Now, in the Pacific Ocean, which is the deepest ocean and the biggest ocean in the world, there is a big patch of plastic. It's called the garbage patch. Now, it'll surprise you to know, can you see Australia here? That garbage patch is actually even bigger than Australia. So all the rubbish that we throw gets into all these garbage patches around the world, but at the bottom of the ocean. What happens at the bottom of the ocean? All these animals love playing with plastic, but this plastic makes them poorly because they eat the plastic, it suffocates them, they can't breathe because they've got plastic over their face, so they actually become poorly. Plastic bottle itself breaks up into little pieces, and that is called microplastic, means small, teeny weeny bits of plastic. That teeny weeny bit of plastic is then eaten by the fish. Small fish eat it, and then big fish eat the small fish, and lo and behold, this young man here is eating fish that has got plastic in it. Now that plastic in the fish is not good for us because we should not be eating microplastic in our fish. What about the third bottle? Well, the third bottle has got a happier ending, which is where this is important for you, because it is all about recycling. So this very clever young boy is thinking, shall I throw it in the bin or shall I throw it in the recycling proper bin? So he throws it into the proper bin, which is picked up by a very, very jolly driver called Bob. He takes it to a recycling plant, and there it is crushed into new plastic, and it is made into beautiful benches, slides. So all the recycled plastic can be made into beautiful sweaters and shoes and tiles. So can you see? Recycling is very, very important, and we should be recycling all stuff that we throw away. Why are we worried about plastic? I already told you that plastic is hurting the animals. So these turtles love these plastic bags because they think it's jellyfish. So they eat it and their stomachs get full and they starve themselves to death, which is bad. The fish die because they eat a lot of plastic and they become full as well. The birds, they pick up what they think is fish, which is shimmering in the oceans, but it is plastic. So they pick this up and they starve, and the chicks starve as well because the birds, mother birds, cannot feed their babies. Well, for us, it's bad as well because it makes us poorly, okay? So microplastic in our food can make us quite poorly, all right? So we can't fight any infections and it can make you very, very poorly. So just remember that. So what we should be doing is we should be refusing to take any plastic. We should be using reusable bottles. Then we should reduce it. In other words, instead of having paper bags to carry our food, we can have bags made of cloth, for example. Okay. And then a lot of stuff, we should be reusing it. For example, we send spectacles to poor countries for the poor people to reuse our spectacles. So we don't throw them away. And finally, we need to recycle our plastic, which means that the plastic is made into better things even, and it's not thrown away, which eventually gets into the oceans. So what you can do in your schools is download, or your teachers can help you to download this website called www.terracycle.com. And this is a free website where hundreds and thousands of people around the world, millions of people around the world, even in 21 countries, collect things like crisp packets, okay? Now, crisp packets are very difficult to recycle. So if you write to TerraCycle, they will, or if you can download their labels, you can send all your free crisp packets to America, and they will then recycle them. It doesn't cost you a penny. You just have to register, collect crisp packets, and then send them free of charge to America, and they'll be recycled, okay? So there are lots of things you can do. You can recycle pens through TerraCycle. All these KP snacks and peanuts and nuts and crisp packets and bread coverings, packaging from bread, etc., through TerraCycle. And there are hundreds of TerraCycle units around our country. Just remember, there are many types of plastics, 7 types of plastics, in fact, some that are easy to recycle, which is the bottle, and some that are not so easy to recycle, such as the boxes that you have your McDonald's burgers or chicken nuggets. Not so easy to recycle, but they can be recycled. But one message is anything you put into a recycle bin, it must be clean. Otherwise, it will not be recycled. And these triangles have got numbers in them, and they are called recycling symbols. 1 means it's this type of plastic, which is called PET. 3, for example, means it's PVC. 5, for example, that occurs in your margarine tubs, is polypropylene. So one of the workshops you could do with your teachers is to identify in your school what types of plastics are there in your school. So that would be a good exercise for you to do, okay? So I was only given 15 minutes to talk to you, so I'm nearly coming to the end. So who is going to do something about cleaning up our planet? It is going to be us together. So WhatsApp is World Against Single-Use Plastic. I want you all to read up about WhatsApp on Google and look at the WhatsApp song, and you will learn a lot about how to make sure our planet is safe. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Perhaps we might have another session talking about different types of plastics, or importance of forests, or how important is soil, or how important is clean water to the environment, etc., etc. Lots of things we can talk about. Today it's just been about plastics. Thank you very much. Antara?
Thank you so much, Professor. This was absolutely wonderful. And I'm sure the students really enjoyed and learned something new today. Professor, if you don't mind, do you think we have 5 more minutes for some questions? We can go
Perfect.
through 2 or 3 questions from schools
Sure.
and students.
Sure.
So anybody, any school, do you have any questions? Do you have anything that you would like to ask Professor? Any questions that come to your mind?
The best thing is, because I've done this so many times, is for that child or student to tell the teacher what the question is, and then the teacher asks me the question.
Wonderful. So do we have anybody who would like to ask Professor something? Any school, any student, even if you want to share, a little story that you have about plastic. Okay, Professor, we have the first question from Kent Hill Junior School.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we do have a couple of questions, so I'm going to go through them.
So if the teachers could put it through to me, it'll be clearer.
So they are in the chat box. So the first question is from Kent Hill Junior School, and they're saying, what makes some plastic harder to recycle?
Okay, so plastics are made from what's known as resins, okay? So when I showed you a picture, which was this picture here, can you see these are different sort of what we call molecules? So if it's a harder plastic, it doesn't mean it's difficult to recycle. For example, PVC is difficult to recycle. It's a hard plastic, so it's used in windows, it's used in pipes, etc. Whereas polystyrene is more difficult to recycle, and yet it is softer in the burger boxes. Okay, so type of plastic is made into symbols depending on what sort of resin, means what sort of a recipe is inside the plastic. So the recipe for the bottles is different from the recipe of the polystyrene. So the polystyrene recipe is complicated, that's why it's more difficult. Whereas the recipe of plastic resins in bottles is actually simpler, so it's easier to recycle. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Sorry, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. We have another question. Do plastics rot?
Sorry, do plastic?
Rot. Do they rot away?
Plastics, well, plastic takes hundreds of years to degrade, okay? But whilst it's degrading, 2 or 3 things happen. First of all, it breaks down into microplastic, which if the fish and marine animals eat it, it harms us. First point. The second thing is that as it's lying there, it produces gases inside the oceans, like methane, okay? And other algae and all the other marine species can then be stuck onto the plastic, and that creates a lot of poisons for the ocean animals. Those poisons can then harm what is called corals, and corals are very, very important for the survival of all the marine animals. So plastics directly affect the animals and also indirectly affect animals that are in the oceans. Okay, I'm just going through some questions. Why are crisp packets difficult to recycle? They are difficult to recycle because they've got multiple plastics in them. If you've got multiple plastics in them, then they're difficult to recycle. Okay. what percentage of plastic is used every day? Well, if I said to you that whilst I've been talking to you for 1 minute, in 1 minute, 1 million bottles have been thrown away that are plastic. 1 million bags have been thrown away that are plastic, okay? So 90% of the plastic that's produced that's single use reaches the oceans, okay? Which country is most polluted? Depends on what sort of pollution we're talking about. If we're talking about plastic pollution, then you find that we ourselves send a lot of our plastic to be polluting other countries. So there are a lot of other countries where not only their own pollution makes it worse, but we send our rubbish there, which we shouldn't, okay? So where are we now? Oh yeah, right, okay. How long have we been using plastic? We've been using plastic for about 120 years. Now that actually, some of you clever boys and girls will work it out, that if plastic takes hundreds of years to degrade, then the plastic that was made 120 years ago for the first time is still there in this world. Incredible, isn't it? So the plastic that was made first time 120 years ago is still around. It hasn't gone because it takes hundreds of years for it to go away. Which type of plastic is most likely to end up in the landfill? Actually, I tell you what, the answer is very easy. It's the plastic that you're going to throw away. That's what's going to happen. It's the plastic that you don't recycle is the one that's going to go into the landfill, okay? And the plastic that is contaminated is the one that's going to land up in the landfill, okay? And the one that's very difficult to recycle, which is type 7 plastic, which is, for example, your CD discs, okay? You know, the CDs you have, those sort of things are difficult to recycle. So they will end up in the landfill. Okay, another question. What would happen if we run out of oil and gas? Well, it's a very important question. Firstly, we should not be using a lot of oil and gas. That's the first point. In other words, we should make our planet sustainable for our future generations. We should be using other forms of energy, and that is wind energy, which is from wind farms, you know, the windmills that you talk about, and also solar power, because these are free. Nature has given us free wind, free solar power. All we have to got to do is to just capture it and use it for energy. Yeah. So oil and gas could run out, but we can always find oil and gas somewhere else. But the idea of getting oil and gas somewhere else and drilling for it is not a good idea. What countries are best at recycling? Germany and Netherlands. Those are the best countries at recycling the plastic. Because what happens is that if plastic has got a value, which means that people can collect the plastic and get the money back, then they will return it for recycling, okay? So Germany and Netherlands. Which ocean contains the most plastic? I don't think anybody knows the answer. One thing we do know is that the Pacific has got big, big garbages, bigger than Australia, that actually contain loads of plastics, which includes the flip-flops, television bits and bobs, and straws, and lots of papers that cover your chocolate packets. Chocolate packets are actually made of multiple plastic, difficult to recycle. So they have to be sent to TerraCycle. Why can't we recycle everything? First of all, because people are not enough in the country to recycle it. So we need to have more factories to recycle. The second thing is people don't think of recycling. That's why everything is not recycled. And thirdly, some bits are not that easy to recycle. What happens when the plastic is not clean? It's difficult to recycle it if it's not clean. How does plastic decompose? Well, it breaks down and down and down into poisonous stuff that plastic was made in the first place with. So it creates a lot of poison. That's how it decomposes over hundreds of years, 800 to 1,000 years. What happens to the landfill full of plastic? Well, it just produces more and more and more poisons. Why is it so bad for us to eat fish, which have been eating plastic? Well, I've told you that in a very simple way, but I will expand the discussion, which is that, you know, when you get things like COVID and infections, the plastic harms our immune system. So it affects our fighting the infections like flu and COVID. So when you become poorly, the plastic will harm you because you don't have those soldiers to actually help you, protect you. The other thing is, unfortunately, it has been said that if mothers and daddies eat a lot of plastic, in future they will have less babies because it makes them infertile as well. And it's also said to have cancers. So not a good idea, really, having microplastic in your fish. Have I heard about the website TeamSeas? No, I have not, but there are lots and lots of websites around. One which I'm working with is called NHS Oceans. Fantastic website, NHS Oceans. How do we combat and clean up garbage patches? I think the answer is we should not in the first place creating the garbage. So the idea is to make sure that we actually educate ourselves. So hopefully in due course, the garbage patches will be less bigger. Which country is the best at recycling? That's Germany and Netherlands. We would like to know how plastic is broken down. I've actually broken down and made into other things. Okay, so it's called in a funny way, it's a funny word for it, it's called circular economy. In other words, plastic that's thrown away is made into other bits of plastic. So you can make plastic into plastic bags, you can make plastic into benches and into slides and all sorts of things. That's called upcycling, which means plastic is now got more value than it had in the first place. That bench that I showed you earlier on, that bench was actually made out of 2,000 bottles. 2,000 bottles of water made this plastic bench. What makes some plastic harder to recycle? I've mentioned that to you already. Please okay, fine. I think I've answered most of the questions there, unless there's something burning or somebody has put in synth. What happens if you run out of oil and gas produced? How long have we been using plastic? For about 120 years or more. Crisp packets we talked about. Interested you? Oh, what interested me studying the pollution? Actually, I'll tell you what, it's very interesting. In 2017, I actually do a lot of work around the world. So if you Google me, Professor Gatrad, you'll see a lot of stuff I do. So I broke my leg when I was in Africa doing some charity work. I came down, I was very ill in hospital, and I saw all this plastic arriving in my food tray first thing in the morning. And I thought, well, I need to do something about this. That's how I started 2017, because I realized at that time that plastic is bad for us. America Recycle, there's a special machines that they've got that they do it. It's very expensive, but they are the only people that can do it at the moment. I dare say we will be able to do it as well. When was plastic popular? Plastic is popular for many reasons. First of all, it's cheap. Secondly, it's see-through. Thirdly, it is light. Okay. And fourthly, it's a good preservative. For example, bananas are put in plastic wraps sometimes because bananas can last longer. This is why Tesco's and all these supermarkets cover up plastic, cover up their food in plastic because it keeps longer. So if it rots, then obviously they don't make money. Okay, so plastic has become popular for those reasons that I've given you, but plastic has not got value at the end of life, and we need to give it value at the end of life, right? By either making sure that people who collect plastic get paid for it, or we recycle it into something that's very much more useful to us. I think I've answered. Who invented plastic? Actually, I can't remember the exact name of the guy, but it actually started with billiard balls. Billiard balls were the first plastic to be produced about 120 years ago, and they were refined by another scientist. So first person thought about it and did a bit, and the second person recycled. I think it was somebody from Europe, but I'm not sure who exactly. How does plastic get poisoned? It gets, well, it actually produces poison itself rather than being poisoned. It gets poisoned by other bits sticking to it. That's what makes it poison. Why do people litter? Because they are mindless. And they have not been educated enough, because they are litter louts. So I think we should make sure we tell people not to litter. And when you guys grow up, you will not become litter louts. You will tell other people not to litter, because this world is choking with litter. Now in Nigeria, that litter is actually blocking all the drains. That's why they get lots and lots of floods, because the drains take all the water away. And this litter clogs up the drains and causes floods where children drown. Not a good thing. Okay, are there creatures or bacteria break down plastic naturally? Yeah, there is a lot of research being carried out about some bacteria breaking down plastic. So yes, watch this space. So at the moment, the way it's going to happen is this. From plastic, we recycle it. So when I said to you PET, which is type 1, it will say PETR, which means it's PET that's recycled. That's what's going to happen, first thing. Coca-Cola is going to do it. The second stage is going to be plastic is made from plants. That's what's going to happen. Plastic made from plants like starch, like potato peels, things like that, okay? And the third thing is going to be where plastic is going to be replaced by some other material, which hopefully somebody will actually invent, because scientists created the problem and scientists will have to help us solve. And this is where you youngsters one day will become scientists and help us get rid of the scourge of plastic and a lot of other things that are affecting our environment.
Lovely. Good morning, everyone. Antara had to leave quickly, so I'm here on behalf of her to fill in for her. Thank you so much, Professor Gatrad, for the talk. I think it has been amazing, and thank you everyone. Thank you all of our schools for joining Let's Localize for this talk. I'm sure you found it you found it just as brilliant as we did, and thank you for all the great questions and the even better answers as well. Is there anything else, Professor? That
no, it's just a pity I can't talk one-to-one with the children. I'm going to go to U-Tree School to talk to them face-to-face, but I think it's a very effective way of using our time. And obviously, with not traveling, and I think it helps the environment by not using the car to go to visit schools. So this is a good way of passing knowledge. But importantly, I think what should do and what children should do is educate their parents when they go home, because food wastage, wastage of food uses up a lot of greenhouse gases, and a lot of food is wasted in the home. So two things they can do at home, children, and that is talk about not wasting food, and secondly, also make sure that the plastic in their homes is put in recycling bins.
I think that was a great last piece of advice that we should probably all follow. Not probably, definitely all follow. Thank you so much for your time. Professor?
Yep. In fact, we can have another talk, but even with bigger number of schools at some point on a slightly different topic. But there are lots of topics I talk about to schools, so you can come up with a topic and we can get more schools even involved next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. That sounds like a brilliant plan, and we'll definitely pick up the conversation on that with you later on. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this conversation. Thank you so much, all.
No, thank you very much for inviting me, and have a good day and look after yourself. Stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.
And we do a WhatsApp sign right at the end, all of you guys. What's up? Okay.